Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host Mike Hudson. And today we're joined by a fellow Pennsylvania resident, Christian Bundy. And we're going to be talking with Christian here in just a minute or two. But Mike, you're all bundled up down in South Carolina, brother. It can't be that cold. What's going on?
Hey man, it's the price of progress. So all my guys are outside. We're doing some more work on the property today. They're bringing in more crusher run. We're trying to get some more accessible trails down to the pier and the fishing deck. So man, I'm outside. I'm fighting the wind, and right now I'm just staying bundled up so I don't have to keep coming back to the house shivering.
Oh, I got you, brother. I got you. I had some of that crusher run put in my driveway down at the farmhouse last year, and it
Yeah,
makes for a really nice driveway. And it's good with the chair, believe it or not. But make sure you pack that stuff down really good, because
yeah.
otherwise you can bury a wheelchair in about a second in it.
100%, man. Straightaways does great. You turn, you're stuck. And so we've been down there. They're compacting it right now, so you may hear that in the background in a minute. But we're going to bring in some light recycled asphalt millings and, just pack it in just a little bit because, we want to keep it green. And we're just looking for a way that just standard chairs can go down through and not everybody either transfer to track chairs or, we have to figure out how to get everyday manual chairs. So just, trying to keep it green, but at the same token, wheelchair friendly.
I think that's a really good idea with the asphalt millings. I think in a year or two, that's going to be my next project is getting that put on top of the crusher run and making it just a little bit more accessible. But
Right.
Christian, what's going on in Scranton, PA? You're a little bit north and east of me, so what's happening up there?
Not too much, just trying to, you know, last week we had that false spring where it was so warm and I was out there already getting like a little suntan and it was so wonderful. And now it's like, I just want to stay warm. So just waiting, the waiting game.
Man, last weekend it was 70 degrees. We were down
Yes.
at the farmhouse running around outside. You know, I was in a t-shirt. And then I think Monday we got 2 inches of snow. So Mother Nature better make up her mind what's going on with spring.
Exactly.
It's definitely giving us false hope, man.
Christian, I've been following you on Instagram and following, your story. And for the folks that don't know you or haven't followed you on Instagram or Facebook, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up and your experience in the outdoors and how you ended up with a spinal cord injury?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's nice to meet everyone. Uh, Like Greg said, my name's Christian, and I live in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I grew up and born and raised in Scranton. So that question's always a big question because I've done definitely feel like it's I've done a lot, but so growing up, I lived in Scranton, and outdoors is very, very important to me. I was a Boy Scout growing up. That's kind of
Mhm.
what got me into the outdoors primarily, because Scranton is pretty urban, so I had houses right next to me and stuff. Didn't have direct access to the woods and stuff like that, but I'm a Boy Scout and I'm actually an Eagle Scout now. Well, I became an Eagle Scout when I was 17 years old, and that was a very, very big part of my identity growing up. Definitely,
Right.
the outdoors, camping, get me outside, whether it's fishing, hunting with my father, or just being outdoors. I had a spinal cord injury when I was 17 years old. I was snowboarding and hit a jump wrong, hit a jump a million times, done the same trick a million times. Just, I'm sure you guys can relate, but you do it a million times. You know what you're doing, but it's just all it takes is 1 second, and that's exactly what happened. But I grew up on the slopes. My father is a ski patroller at our local ski resort, Montage Mountain, and So, since I was 3 years old, I knew nothing other than every weekend in the winter, you go up Montage Mountain, you carry your skis and you get ready, you hop on the slopes and go skiing. And, I skied until I was around 8 years old. And then I learned how to snowboard. My older brother was a snowboarder, um, kind of followed in his footsteps. And loved it, fell in love with it. Did that every single weekend and probably every other day or so after school in the wintertime. That was what I did. Uh, but, I was 17 years old. March 3rd, I actually just had my 20th anniversary of my accident. And it was, just one of those things. At the end of the year, every year, my mom would let me take a day off of school to go do a demo day at the end of the year. It was at another local mountain, and me and my buddy, we went with my mom. And actually, my father he broke his toe like a week before, so he would have been there, but he couldn't. And we were up there, and fantastic day. It snowed the night before. Just not in school, snowboarding. What
Right.
else can you ask for? And it's always like that cliche thing, but it was the end of the day, and couple more runs, and we were in the snowboard park and hit a jump, doing a trick that I've done a million times, came down wrong, and just hit my neck and couldn't well, I did remember everything after that, but couldn't move my body. And um, you know, then it's that whirlwind of, we got to get you off the mountain. Ski patrol. I think the ski patrollers that were there knew who I was, and kind of took care of me like they would take care of anyone though. But flying from Elk Mountain to Scranton's Hospital, stabilized me there and flew me right down to Thomas Jefferson down in Philadelphia. And then it's that whirlwind of post, figuring out that it's going to be post-injury life, and um, you know, just off to, it's like you just broke your neck and now they're telling you you need to figure out what you're going to do for rehab and all of that stuff. So that's kind of all of that.
Right.
But
It's a crazy time, man. You go through injury, pre-assessments, doctors all over you, cutting clothes. It's mass chaos. It's everything you think of when you're talking about a traumatic situation. Uh, but when you got through the injury, or assessment, and you're at now the rehab hospital, what was that process like? Was it a delay? They put you to ICU before you can even get started, or what was that process for you like?
And Christian, what was your injury level? And we know that you went to New Jersey for your rehab. If you'd explain some of that.
Yeah.
absolutely. So, when I broke my neck, I had a C5 complete injury. So, that's the first thing. And I think if you're not in the medical field or you don't have a spinal cord injury, the hell is C5 complete?
Right.
And I will never forget that when I was 17 years old, being at Thomas Jefferson, and some, young doctor hotshot is like, you have a C5 Asia A complete injury, you will never walk again. And it's like, more opiates. Like, what do I say to that? How do you
Yeah.
respond? What do you do? And also, like, I'm a social worker now. Like, you're gonna tell a 17-year-old that by themselves, and all of those things and the ethics of
Right.
that and whatnot. But that's another topic. But yeah. So I mean, we had to go to. I went to New Jersey. My mom is from North Jersey, and my grandmother live not far from Kessler Institute. So I've heard of that place. We've heard great things. So that's kind of where it went. It seemed a logistical benefit to me. My mom was able to stay at my grandmother's, and thank God I didn't. ever get. I was never intubated. I didn't have any breathing problems. I'm gonna knock on some wood right now, but yeah, at post injury kind of went, I guess, as smooth as it can go to be a C5 AJA injury, but you're 17 years old, you don't know what that means really, and you're in rehab, and it's like, well, I'm leaving either walking out of here or I'm using a manual wheelchair and pushing myself out of there. And, sometimes having a spinal cord injury and, of such magnitude will, give you some reality. And, you could have all these hopes and dreams and, you could work your ass off, but it might not
Right.
do what needs to be done. And, and it's funny because anytime you see like a feel good story on the news, it's like this kid worked his butt off and he walked out of there. Well, you can still work your butt off and not walk out of there. And
Yes, sir.
it doesn't mean that you worked any less. It just
Yeah,
means that you broke your neck pretty darn good. Um, but yeah, so I mean that was a wonderful. It was an interesting experience. I'm not going to say I guess it was a good experience, and one fun fact about when I was at Kessler is I had a room that was pretty large that I didn't have a roommate in because I was 17 at the time. They couldn't put me with an adult. And all of the people that worked there, the right across the hall was um, the breathing people. I forget what
Respiratory.
respiratory therapists, yes. And they're like, you have the room that Christopher Reeves was in when he stayed here. This is Superman's room because he
Wow.
did his rehab at Kessler. So that was pretty cool. And everybody like was like, Robin Williams has been in this room. This is a good vibe room. And it was. And I think I'm an optimistic person. My family's very optimistic. And, there wasn't much negativity in my room. And that's one thing that I will always remember. My room when we went right in, there were cards all over the wall. There was a huge sign that my classmates made for me, and it was all color. It wasn't like doom and gloom. And
Right.
how you start that off is so critical, you know,
absolutely.
to get where you're going to go.
One of the fun facts is Christian, I got hurt the same year as Christopher Reeves. Me and him are 95, dude. So we were
Oh,
back to,
wow.
yeah, he got hurt, and then a few months later, I got hurt. So anyway, fun
That
spinal.
was in the headline. That's wild.
It,
Right, right.
it,
I would have made the headlines, but Superman beat me too.
it it's
He took he stole your thunder.
Oh my God, dude.
it's a small world, Christian. When you talk about injury levels, I'm complete C4 or 5, and I was on a ventilator for quite a while. And I'm so glad that you didn't have to go through that part of it. Um, and you were still in high school, right? You were getting
I
ready to
was.
graduate.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the thing. And I was a senior in high school, March of your senior year. So, it's that time of the year that it's like, let's have fun, and the night before my injury, I was playing soccer. I love soccer. I was planning to go to college outside of Philadelphia, probably Westchester University, to for education. And I think I was more interested in playing soccer than going for education. And
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like you
You're a teenager,
figuring
right?
out we're going to be going on senior week and all of the stuff, the rites of passage, going to your prom, going to all that stuff. And then, the Lord has different plans for you. And that's exactly it. And, that's kind of what happened. But, you know, I don't, I don't know what allowed this to happen, but I, I think I definitely had a pretty positive attitude through the whole entire thing, and I took things in stride. Um, I did actually, I actually, when it came in for my graduation for the day, I came into Pennsylvania for my prom that evening with my girlfriend at the time. And, um, things, we tried to keep things as normal in such a crazy world as possible. And, but, it's tough. And I think I'm a very grateful person that I don't think I've ever dealt with, like, depression on a level that a lot of people I see and I work with have, and I don't think that it's something that was in my makeup, which is definitely helpful because not everybody's that fortunate.
Sure.
And that being said, that doesn't mean that you don't have bouts of depression and stuff like that and anxiety, but it's definitely helpful that it's not a genetic disposition or anything because that was definitely helpful. The mental aspect of that and
Man,
being an athlete, being a Eagle Scout, all that stuff, that prepares you for physical stuff. And it's like, all right, I need to go to therapy today. That's
sure.
fine, we'll go. But like the mental aspect, and that's something that is definitely without a doubt the hardest aspect that anyone will have to deal with.
You bring up a lot of emotions and a lot of trauma, a lot of statistics. I mean, it's a gambit of what we're going through in a microcosm, millisecond of, here I am, able-bodied. Now all of a sudden I've got people's hands all over me. They're throwing out terminology. I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm an able-bodied athlete. Now I'm not. And then we have to process all that in real time. And then you got a doctor that just walks in and says, "Hey, you're done. You're no longer walking. This is what's going to happen," and turn around and walk out. And Greg and I I don't know Greg's full story, but mine was just like that.
Mhm.
Being a younger guy, but you bring up a lot of great points. Try to go into it with a positive attitude. I mean, we're thrown into a whirlwind. We can make it worse with a negative attitude, and we just have to figure out how to get back to living. And faith based, man, I'm right there with you. I didn't ask to be injured. God didn't ask my opinion, but we just have to kind of pick up and push on. And that's not a knock on anyone. Everybody has to mourn the loss of who they were and now figure out where they're going. And so I guess my next question was, you wanted to go for education and soccer, so now you're in a whirlwind of what are you going to do? So I know you said social work. How'd that transition?
So that's an interesting story. Basically, after my injury, I had this I don't know why, but and I think it was myself wanting to just try to keep doing what you were doing, and idle hands are the devil's playground, and just keep
Right.
myself busy. So amidst outpatient therapy and stuff, I still decided to go to college the following fall. Um, I went locally to Keystone College, and I went part-time, but I enrolled in elementary education like I wanted to do. And I'm doing that and trying to figure it out. And fortunately, I knew some people in the class and they'd help me out. And which is a whole nother story, asking someone for help when you are an independent person planning to live on your own and, being an Eagle Scout and stuff like that. So, all that stuff is just a whirlwind, but we could talk for hours about all that. But, I went into a classroom to do some shadowing, and I love working with young adults and kids. And the first thing that I think really hit me was like watching all these young kids having the teacher put jackets on for them and very hands-on stuff like that. And it's like, oh man, I don't know. It kind of hit me. It's like this is a hard profession for someone that is quadriplegic of my level. And I took that in reality. I spoke with some family friends, some friends of my parents that were social workers, they said, you might want to look into social work. There's so many different aspects of it. There's so many, and you have such an interesting story, and you've been through so much, and you have so much empathy that it's worth checking out. So I did, and I did love it. I went to I then enrolled at Marywood University as a full-time student, which is another college close to me, and did social work, which I loved. I still do love. Um, and the college experience was definitely not a typical one, and it was definitely difficult to me. I don't think anybody, especially, when you have that acquired disability like like we have, having your mom drop you off at college is not in your playing cards. And it's like
Right.
when you get that in your playing cards, it's like, man, well, that's interesting. Or I'm going to sit at the cafeteria with my mom and at college. What? But you have to do what you have to do, and that's kind of why we're all here right now, is because we did what we have to do, and that's what it's about. But yeah, so I did that, and I after that I had an internship working with individuals with disabilities at like a center for independent living, and I started working there part-time, which then turned into full-time. Um, it was a great experience, and then the pandemic hit, and I lost my job there, but that kind of opened up this new window of I saw a cyber charter school that was hiring a social worker, and I knew a couple people that worked there as teachers, and I applied, and they were thrilled to hire me. It works out fantastic because it's all cyber. It's not
Yes.
hands-on. I'm not putting little kids' coats on like that
Yeah.
fear that I had 15, 12 years prior. And it works out fantastic. Because now I do counseling with young adults and high school kids and elementary kids. And so I still have that connection to what I originally loved, but I also think that I have a lot of tools at my disposal that makes me a pretty solid school social worker. I work a lot with students that are homeless, which I have no idea what it's like to be homeless. I have always, after my injury, I've lived at my house with my family, and we've uh, always had a hot dinner and a great house to grow up in. I don't know what it's like to be homeless, but I definitely do know what it's like to go through something that's pretty crappy at 17 years old. And I think that's where I can meet young
Mhm.
16-year-olds or 17-year-olds, and they're like, okay, you can get it without getting what it's like to be a homeless individual. So.
Yes, sir. You're able to relate to difficulties and struggles. And anytime you get to share your story, it's a back and forth. And you have that common ground with so many people that can relate to what you've gone through, and you as well, you can relate to them. And I think that gives you instant credibility. Now,
Empathetic dialogue goes a long way, man.
yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, Christian, you're out of rehab. You went back to school. You've been employed. Um, what was next on your agenda? I understand that you're married, and how did you meet your wife, and what was that like?
So, meeting my wife, Shannon. So, oh man, it's wild because during all of this, it's not something that I ever had in my playbook that I was going to be getting married. It's tough because I think that was something that I always struggled with because I'd love to be a father and I'd love to be a husband. And I kind of resigned to the fact that when I was 17 that that might not be in my playbook. And 18, 19, that might not be in my playbook. And, I've had doctors and this person and that person. The right person will meet you. Excuse
Right.
me. They'll fall in love, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I wasn't looking for a girlfriend at the time, and that's the wild thing is I just was um I was actually out with some friends at a local bar, the Bog. Shout out to the Bog in Scranton, and we were just I was celebrating. It was May with my friends and one of my coworkers who was getting her master's in social work at the time. She just got her master's and she was coming out. And I think I texted her, she texted me or something, but I was like, stop at the Bog. I'm here. I'll have a drink with you. And she came with some of her friends, and Shannon happened to be one of her friends. And we hit it off. I think I'm a shy person. I think Shannon's a shy person, but a little liquid courage is always sometimes helpful. And moral end of that night, we definitely spent a lot of time chatting at this bar, and we hit it off. And m- usually, if I go to a bar downtown, it'll be like my mom or my dad will drop me off, and I'll text them 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They're great sports with doing whatever I would need, and I usually text my dad at 2 o'clock, hey, can you pick me up? And it was like 2:15, 2:30, and they're like, where the hell is Christian? And um, they texted me like soon, and eventually I texted and I got picked up, and I think my dad was like, he was with some beautiful blonde. And yeah, I think they figured that out. Why I didn't call earlier, but
Right.
yeah, and fortunately, I asked Shannon for her phone number, and we hit it off, and um, dated for a couple years. She lived in downtown Scranton, and her apartment was not wheelchair accessible, but couple months after we met, she actually started looking for an accessible apartment, which was like,
Beautiful.
okay,
Hey,
all
it's
right,
good.
all right,
Yeah.
that's lovely. And she is absolutely wonderful. She's an emergency. She was an ICU nurse when we met, which is definitely helpful. It's great to have an understanding. And she's an emergency room nurse now. And that I think one of the funniest stories is when we were dating. I kind of told her a little bit about everything, and she's pretty cool with, you know, I need help with my hands and stuff, and she gets it. Um, my biggest fear is like I have a colostomy, and it's like, how am I going to tell her that? How am I going to break this to her? And like it's just something that in my head, it's something I can't get past. And like I'm in my bedroom with her, and I'm like I need to tell you something, and I think she was bracing for impact. That
Sure.
I whatever,
Uh,
I have a criminal background. I'm majorly in debt, whatever. Um, and I tell her that I have a colostomy. She goes, "Oh, I know.
Just
yeah.
Yeah,
put
I
you right
know.
at ease.
I
I've
figured that
already,
one
yeah,
out."
figured that out.
I was like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "Well, what do you have to tell me?"
Yeah.
And she's
Right.
like, "I told you."
We
But
make
So,
it so much bigger in our head, and they've already processed that. And that's, man, I'm telling you, your story is beautiful, man, and we can relate on so many levels. Just in this, the three of us have been blessed. Uh, One, we went through our injury, we made it through. We've gotten education. We're processing and moving on to be, positive individuals with spinal cord injuries. And then here we are finding love blindly. Thank you to social media and some of the technology that's out there. But and now you got a partner that truly understands you and gets you and moves past little things. And I don't want to say little things where people think that an ostomy is a little thing, but in the spinal cord world, it is. I mean, we have to make tough decisions with what we've got. You know, there's limited ways to go to the bathroom, people, and so we have to figure it out. Um, but finding that partner that's truly understanding, society may not always be. What difference does it make?
And
Um,
and
we
Exactly right.
do it.
And Christian, you bring up a really good point. Mike, you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes we can build things up in our mind to make
Correct.
it such a big deal. How am I going to get into this building? We worry about parking, we worry about the access ramp. It can keep us home from not exploring things, but we build things up so much in our mind that this is such a big issue. And then you meet, a beautiful person who says, Christian, I know that you have a colostomy. I know what you're going through. It's not deterring me, it's not shocking me, but it was such a big thing for you to disclose to her. And she took it, right in stride, which is why you guys have such a great relationship. And when you hear stories like that, it really gives a lot of people hope.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could think of the doctor that I had to have that conversation with. It was like, you're gonna meet someone that's not gonna care about that. I was
Sure.
like, you're full of shit.
Right.
Well,
Literally. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
all good.
well, he was
I,
right.
yeah.
And,
We can go through those stories, man. And, on the podcast, we meet so many people that have had those stories where they've met the love of their life and it was right in the midst of a literal accident. I
That's
mean,
so cool.
and hey, they're processing feces or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And the spouses, the soon to be spouse is like, hey, it's no big deal. But
right.
Greg, you're right, man. Sometimes we got to get through those mental barriers that slow us down.
And it all goes back to what Christian said in the very beginning. It's having a good attitude, it's staying positive, and working towards a goal, whatever that goal is in your life. And along those lines, Christian, what are some of the challenges that you had to discover as a newly injured person? And do you use a lot of assistive technology? I know that you're working, every day on Zoom and things, but what's the AT part of your life that gets you, out and about and makes you successful?
Definitely, definitely assistive technology. Um, Sometimes it's the easiest thing. I use this right on my hand, a universal cuff to help type, and you guys get it. And definitely don't type as fast as some people, but I do type faster than other people. Uh, so that and like a trackball mouse, I use that every day. And um, so when myself and Shannon got married, that's kind of we figured out like where are we gonna live? What are we gonna do with that? And we ended up building a house, which is fantastic. And it's still I can't believe that we were able to do that and we did that. And this house we created it with a lot of accessible technology in mind. My wheelchair, I have a quantum wheelchair that has the eye level, and our island is at eye level height, which is pretty cool for us. That it's pretty much measured for me, and Shannon's back can be preserved, so she's not leaning over. And at my house when I lived in Scranton, I pretty much couldn't really be left alone because of just the situation. But now with my phone, I could be in the office working and Shannon might go off to work and I can open every door. I have a button for the door right for the office and then to the garage. And then the garage I can open with my phone and I could get right outside. I could get more water for myself from some assistive technology. I keep my phone Velcroed on my wheelchair and just that with Alexa. I don't want to say it too loud because one of them
Right.
will hear
Sure.
me,
Sure.
but have an Alexa in the house and turn on living room lights or turn on this light or that light. Um, is just amazing, which they didn't have in 2006.
Or
And that's one of the definite benefits that someone that's going to have their injury tomorrow or last week is going to have some of this stuff down the road for them, and that's wonderful, and that's where AI and assistive technology and stuff like that is so beneficial. But back then it was definitely a lot harder, and
It's
I'm acting like I'm an old timer and stuff, and I'm really not. But and yeah, I'm sure you guys can get it that like you know you thought that things were good when you had this or that, and now it's like, wow, how did we do it then?
yeah,
one of the big things, Christian, is I want people to realize that we are more or less disabled depending on our surroundings,
yeah,
depending on the access to assistive technology that we have, either financially that we're able to do it, or that we go through, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation here in our state, or Mike, you have OVR down in South Carolina. Every state does, but we're actually more independent or less independent depending on our surroundings, not necessarily our disability.
correct.
You're 100% correct. Absolutely.
Being able to get access to some of the stuff Christian brought up a ton. Greg and I got hurt. I didn't even have cell phones back when I first got hurt, and to see the tech change between outdoor vehicles that get us out, assistive tech for housing. We could go on, and you're right, dude. It brings up so many options and so many opportunities, even for guys that I've seen that are profoundly disabled, no upper movement at all, use sipping puffs and all that, and can be fairly independent in their home and safe and go and do and be productive. And that's a beautiful thing, man. And it's Christian, I thank you for sharing your story. And I'm not cutting you off here, but it's almost becoming where we're becoming oddities, where we're seeing more and more guys that just don't get out of their head, and we're having to push just to say, hey man,
Yeah,
if you'll come out, we can show you that life goes on. It's going to be different. So in your social work, man, do you see that a lot with just different, not even disabilities, just different personalities?
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's double-edged sword because like I work for cyber school and it's helpful for a lot of individuals that you don't have to go to school, but in brick and mortar, but it can also not help in a way if someone, you know, doesn't want to leave because of fears and stuff like that. And, it can be
Patient.
comforting to not have to overcome something of like, okay, well, I gotta go.
But
So
they miss out on that human interaction.
Right.
They're still able to get an education. They're still able to interact with people, but it can be self-isolating if you're only relying on Zoom or relying on technology to be your social outlets.
Yes.
right, and that's where a great staff and myself and come into play and make sure that we make it as interactive as possible. And I'm always trying to get some students to join some clubs, get in a club, join a club because we do have a lot of opportunities, and it's cool because there are opportunities of field trips and stuff like that they can meet, and I'm always encouraging do it
Yep.
because it's exactly what you said, it's as limiting as our surroundings, and it doesn't have to be at all. It could be the opposite of limiting if that's how you choose to do it. And just making sure that that's what we encourage and that's what I encourage. Um, and definitely from my own experiences too. And uh, yeah,
we have to seek the positive sides of things, man. We can get down a rabbit hole really quick, and like you said, we go through bouts of disability or depression. Everybody does, and it's little things sometimes that set me off. It might be a song, and that song it should be a positive song, but for whatever reason, it kicks me back to a time where 30 years ago you were walking, and now you're not.
Yeah.
And you
Oh
know, we
yeah.
we have to process it. It's not a big deal, but I think some of it, isolation. We saw it right after COVID, man. Just a complete change, and a lot of people they were. If you take somebody that has a profound disability and has no way to get out and about, whether they're homeless or vehicles or whatever, now you further isolate them. Then they become almost a recluse in a way. They kind of get introverted even more. And I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but it's very isolating for these guys and girls that really need somebody to just understand and listen.
And and Mike, it's not even, exclusive to people with disabilities.
Yeah,
The average American goes through bouts of depression and
100%.
struggles with getting out or making friends, or you go
Yeah.
through divorce or family loss, or
Right.
I mean, there are just so many issues that we need to be aware of and really try to live our best life no matter what our situation is. And along those lines, Christian, what would be some advice you would give to somebody that's newly injured, or somebody that wants to experience more of life and the opportunities that are out there? What would you say to somebody that just recently acquires a spinal cord injury?
I think that's where it's so important to have like peer programs at hospitals and rehabs and, seeing like the great things that you two guys do, just getting that out there and educating and showing them like there is more to do. And in Northeast PA, we do have a spinal cord injury support group, individual abilities in motion. And it's like connecting them with that and just realizing like, there's hand cycling, and there's water skiing, and there's sit skiing, and there's all of these things. And like, if you were an outdoor guy, you could still be an outdoor guy.
Right.
We have Camp Hope that's not far from me, and it's a lot for military veterans, and it's fantastic. That's the first place I ever was able to try an off-road wheelchair, and man, that changed my life. That was like before and after an off-road wheelchair, and it's like this is so cool. And just, educating individuals that are freshly injured of like there's more to do it. There's more. And you could still have a beautiful wife, and you could still have a beautiful house and a beautiful life, everything.
Absolutely.
And that sharing that is so important. Um, Without a doubt.
What are you looking forward to this summer or fall, Christian? Do you have vacation plans with Shannon, or what's next up on you guys' adventure list?
Um, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge soccer fan, and um, World Cup is in the United States, and there was a lottery to get
Mhm.
tickets, and I had every single person that I know put in their names for
Yeah.
to get tickets, and somehow Shannon got selected for the lottery. So we're going to be going to the World Cup in Philadelphia and in New Jersey for a couple games in June. So that's huge on my list. I can't wait for that. So there's that, and just can't wait for that. But also we're going to be going to a couple concerts. I'm a big concert goer, and Billy Strings we're going to be go
Oh
see
yeah,
up
Yeah.
in Bethel. He's great bluegrass musician,
Yeah.
and it's good. We're excited for that. So that, and then last the end of the summer, maybe August last year, I got a Quantum Outback
Yeah.
wheelchair, off-road wheelchair. And if you go on my social media, I mean, you'll see that's pretty much every video is that in that thing. And I I have a feeling I'll be in that quite a bit, and I've been in it all winter and stuff. But as soon as it gets warm, that's where I am. Um, and Shannon's family goes to the beach every year, so we'll go down there. And last year I brought my that wheelchair with us. My father-in-law brought it down in a U-Haul
Yeah,
trailer, and oh my God, that just changed everything. I used to
Absolutely.
love the beach before my injury, but I tried going after my accident to like the Jersey Shore, and you're in the big wheeled chairs, which are pretty cool, but it's like I can't even touch the sand. I have to have someone push me, and this is not the beach. And then
Right.
that was the last time I went to the Jersey Shore, and then got this off-road chair, and I didn't know if it would make it on the sand, but man, it rips through the sand.
yeah,
And
I
it,
I've been following your videos, Christian, and that Quantum is a great piece of equipment to get people outdoors, whether it's back into the woods or the sand. And a friend of ours, David Daw, does a lot of things my wheelchair saw today in his Quantum. And I
yeah.
just can't believe the places you guys take this chair. And it looks so comfortable, much better riding than some of the other outdoor chairs.
yeah, that absolutely. It feels like my regular wheelchair, which is fantastic. I'll spend an entire day in it. And
I, I think the only issue with outdoor chairs for me personally is the turn radius. Having that outdoor chair could almost be your everyday chair if they turned a little bit tighter indoors. But Mike always says our outdoor chairs are our work boots, and we
Yeah.
got dress shoes and work boots. So you got to
I
have two
like
different.
that.
You got to
I
have two
like
Yeah.
different
that.
style chairs.
I like that.
Hey man, we got to find what works, right? And just, we're blessed again to be able to do it. I love just being able to share tech and throw somebody else in one of the chairs. Hey, get out here and try it out and just see what works.
Yeah,
you know and
absolutely.
but the sad part is, now we got to try to find new ways to get people in them financially, and for them to
Yeah,
understand, we got to put a little meat in the fire sometimes too, that there's not a lot of grants. We're trying to find grants for it, but sometimes we have to suck it up and try to figure out, I want to be in a track chair, I want to be in a coyote, I want to be in a quantum, whatever it may be. Let's get after it, and find ways to get houses, find ways to get tech, and then once we do it, share it with other people and say, this is how you do it. This is what I did.
yeah,
This is what works.
And Mike, you bring up a really good point. And Christian and I both live in Pennsylvania. We're
Yeah.
fortunate to have access to this Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation, and they'll actually do 0% interest loans over the
Yeah.
lifetime of that equipment. So if you did want to purchase a Quantum or a track chair or anything for outdoors, you could have a loan for 10 years. Now,
Right.
that sounds scary to a lot of people on fixed income, but you're only hurting yourself by staying at home and not investing in yourself and investing in the future on this equipment. It's not cheap to do, and I understand there's a lot of pressure on people and their finances, but there are ways other than just grants if you're willing to do it.
And that's what it's all about, man. Finding new ways to figure it out. There's credit unions right now that are doing the exact same thing. And yeah, we got to qualify and we've got to do this and that, but there's better ways to invest in you, your future, and like Christian said, save your spouse's back
Yep.
on some of it and just get back in the
gotta
game.
save it.
Hold my bride's hand and being able to roll down the beach for the first time was mind blowing to me.
Yep.
It's little things that just spark so much life. You don't want to sound cliche, but man, Christian, dude, you're bringing up so many good points today, and I just love the fact that you guys were right back at it. You didn't let anything slow you down, and you're continuing to process and share. And I think that's what it's about, really, is just being able to share other opportunities and newness for people. Thank you.
Christian, we're
Absolutely.
we're getting close to the hour of a podcast. It goes by so quickly. We really appreciate you sharing your story. And one of the things I'm going to start asking people, is if you were sitting around a campfire and you had one moment to relive or retell in your life to others, what would that moment be for you?
I really don't want to sound cliche, but I think it would have to be my wedding day. I think it was just incredible. It was fantastic. We were able to get married outside at actually my in-laws, and they have a farm, and we were able to get married there, and it was a beautiful day. And you don't get to take everything in, as you guys will know, and just it was incredible, and I don't think I don't steal. Sometimes some days I'll be like, I'm married.
Yeah,
I got married. Wow.
How lucky, how blessed.
How lucky, exactly. And I could relive that a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Brother, when we were getting ready to do this podcast, I always do a little background search on people and things, and the pictures from your wedding are just stunning, just really beautiful, and I can see why that's one of the favorite memories that you'll have for the rest of your life. You and your wife have a great relationship, and that's what everybody is striving for: is relationships in their life, whether it be romantic or friendship or family. It sounds like you have so much support around you that helps you achieve your goals, and then you're pouring back into your community. You're talking with kids every day. You're out there working, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on and tell your story, and for everything you do for the community, Christian.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for what you do. This is so cool.
Christian, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way? You want to toss out your socials, and of course, we'll link to it. But what's the best way if someone would have a question? Would you be open to talking with people?
Well, I answer messages on I have an Instagram and TikTok. It's life of Zoomer, life underscore of underscore Zoomer.
Yeah.
And you message me on there. I'm happy to chat. A lot of people ask me about concerts and what section is good, and this and that. We went to the Sphere last summer, and it was incredible. Got to see Dead and Company, and I get a lot of people reach out asking, where's the best accessibility and stuff like that. So
100%.
I've heard about that show at the Spear for the Dead. I understand it was incredible, and I'm a big Deadhead, so that would be an awesome thing to witness for sure.
unbelievable. It was cool.
Mike, you want to take us out with any last words, brother? Sum up the podcast today. You're on.
Man, it's one of those things, guys. Anybody that's listening to this, life goes on, and we got to find new ways to continue to reinvent ourselves daily. It doesn't mean anything stagnant. God's given us an opportunity. He still uses broken vessels. Let's get out there and love life and be able to share it with other people. And you got guys like Christian that are just rolling miracles, if you will, because it's not cliche. It's an amazing life if we accept the life that we have. There's a lot of things we can change. There's things we can't, and we just have to continue to roll on with the things we can. And I want to thank you again, Christian. Greg, thank you for finding him. I've been following him on social media and checking out the zooming, and I'm one of those guys that no wonder I ended up in a chair because I've jumped my track chair or something off real stupid. But it's not about trying to be reckless. It's just about finding new ways to love life. And for all those that continue to follow along with us, thank you for this journey. And again, just thank you for an awesome day.